Okay, so we're up to the point where we have this way of we have a pretty good pattern for finding the pointy bits inside, and I'd like to talk about how we could throw an error from inside the main part. So this is should find all of our the placeholders, and I can't remember what I called it in the solution. I'll just call it placeholders here. That should find all the placeholders in the text. And now we need to find out, let's say, the length. Let's print how many placeholders there are. I'll just pop that there. And if I run this, for instance, with the fox.txt, oops, I need to import the RE module. Put this right here. Okay, so if I run this with the fox, there are 4. But if I run this with the no blanks, there's 0, right? And this is something why I wanted to introduce what do you do here in the main body of the text when you find something that's a reason why you can't go on and you need to stop your program with an error message. So how would you handle that? Well, I want you to know about the sysexit function. And I also want to talk about printing errors to standard error. So for instance, I believe, let's go back and look at the specs. I believe it may say exactly what to print when there are no placeholders. Let me, I don't remember if I specify that here. Ah, this text has no placeholders, exactly. So when it's the case that the length of, so let's say, if the length of placeholders is equal to 0, then we want to print this text has no placeholders. It turns out that Pylint doesn't actually like us to say if the length of placeholders is 0. Actually, I'm surprised it's not complaining there. Usually it will say, okay, no problems. Oh, nope. It usually says if not placeholders. We can just go with this for the moment, but another way to write this would be if not placeholders. And placeholders would be would be interpreting this in a Boolean context, and a list with 0 elements is considered falsy. So this would be 2 different ways of writing this. So if we run this with Fox, it's not going to do anything right now. If we run this with no blanks, then we see this text has no placeholders. It's not just enough, though, to print this. We also want to stop the program, and we want to exit with a non-zero exit value. We also want this error message to be printed to standard error. When you're running a very large program with lots and lots of input that might have a lot of verbose output about what's happening at different stages, and then maybe you have 2 or 3 errors that get printed out, you can't rely on your user being able to see those errors. It's really important for the standard output to go to standard out and the errors to be printed to standard error, and then the user can segregate standard out and standard error on the command line and see those, but only if our program prints to standard error. So we can indicate that with file equals sys.standard_error. And let me show you what that looks like. So if I run this place has no text holders. I can, in my, I'm using bash. In my shell, 2 stands for standard error, and I can redirect that to error. And now when I do that, I see nothing on the command line, but there is now this file called error, and that has my error output. So that's important. You need to print errors to standard error, and then your user can segregate the errors into its own output and then look at them. In addition to doing all that, we also need to exit the program here. And we need to exit with something other than 0. If we don't give it a value, it's going to exit with 0. So just any value that's not 0 is good. We can do sysexit 1, and that should be fine. And actually, if we run make test now, whoops, test, we should see that we're almost passing. Let's see. Input blanks has no test holder. So apparently we need to say, instead of that, we need to say args.file.name. And it looks like it probably needs to be in quotes. And I'm going to have to put that as an F string. Let's try that again. Yes, so that is going to pass the no blanks. That's the way that should look. Let me show you a slightly shorter way to write the same idea. I can just take this and I'm going to call sysexit with the error message. I'm going to comment that out and this line too. And need to print that. There we go. And now if I run this, let me run make test, make sure it's still good. The same thing happens. So if you run sysexit with a string value or with something that can be stringified, that message will be printed to standard error, and then your program will exit with a non-zero value. Specifically, it's going to exit with a value of 1. And so this is basically one line instead of 2 lines, but these 2 lines are extremely explicit about what they're doing. This error message is being printed to standard error, and then we're exiting with sysexit 1. Well, we can do that in exactly 1 line of code. So that is one way to handle inside your main function a way to stop your program and have it error out in a way that is really informative to the user. And also, if you're using this in a larger pipeline, like this is some in a larger scheme. This program is being used in the middle of some processing that you're doing. If this program exits with an exit value, probably you want the whole analysis pipeline to come to a stop so that you can address the problems. So it's very important to understand how to print to standard error and how to exit with a non-zero value to say that there was a problem when you were running your program.